The US and EU find themselves at odds, facing a new and unexpected challenge. This time, the conflict centers around diversity programs, a topic that has become increasingly contentious. The US government is demanding that EU companies with US government contracts comply with a new executive order, which has sparked significant debate. This executive order bans diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, a move that has been met with both support and opposition within the US. The EU is pushing back strongly, setting the stage for a potential trade conflict that could have far-reaching consequences. This issue highlights the growing divide between the US and EU on social and political issues, reflecting deeper ideological differences. The US, under the current administration, is taking a more conservative stance on issues like diversity and inclusion, signaling a shift in policy direction. The EU, on the other hand, has doubled down on its commitment to these values, emphasizing the importance of diversity and inclusion in its policies. This clash of values is creating significant tension in the transatlantic relationship, with both sides standing firm in their positions. It remains to be seen how this will play out, but it's clear that the stakes are high, and the outcome could reshape the future of US-EU relations. The outcome could have significant implications for the future of US-EU relations, affecting not just trade but also diplomatic and cultural ties between the two regions. The Biden administration issued an executive order in 2023, sparking a nationwide debate. This order specifically targets DEI programs, which stands for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. These programs aim to promote diversity and inclusion in the workplace, fostering an environment where everyone feels valued and respected. The order argues that these programs are inherently discriminatory. It claims they lead to preferential treatment based on race, ethnicity, and gender, rather than merit. Critics of the order argue that it's a significant step backward in the fight for equality. They say it undermines decades of efforts to create a more equitable and inclusive society. Critics also argue that the order is based on a fundamental misunderstanding of what DEI programs aim to achieve. These programs, they say, are designed to level the playing field, ensuring that everyone has an equal opportunity to succeed. They emphasize that DEI initiatives are not about giving preferential treatment, but about removing barriers to equal participation. The executive order has been met with a series of legal challenges from various organizations. Several civil rights groups have filed lawsuits arguing that the order is unconstitutional and violates fundamental principles of equality. The legal battle over the order is ongoing, with both sides preparing for a lengthy court fight. It is still unclear how the courts will ultimately rule on this contentious issue, but the outcome will have far-reaching implications for DEI programs across the country. The US government has gone a step further in enforcing its ban on DEI programs. It has started sending letters to EU companies. These letters warn companies with US government contracts to comply with the executive order. Failure to do so, the letters warn, could jeopardize their contracts. These letters have been met with resistance from the EU. EU officials argue that the US is overstepping its bounds. They argue that the US is trying to impose its laws on foreign companies operating outside of its jurisdiction. The EU is also concerned about the impact this could have on European companies. Many European companies have DEI programs in place. They see these programs as essential to their business operations. They are now caught in the middle of a transatlantic dispute. France has emerged as a vocal critic of the US stance on DEI programs. Laurent Saint-Martin, France's Minister for Foreign Trade, has publicly condemned the US executive order. He has called it discriminatory and contrary to the values of the European Union. Saint-Martin has argued that France will not compromise on its commitment to diversity and inclusion. He has also said that France is prepared to take action to protect its companies. This could include legal action against the US government. France's stance reflects the broader view within the EU. The EU sees diversity and inclusion as fundamental rights. It is unlikely to back down from its commitment to these values. Section 5 Belgian resistance defending European values. Belgium has also pushed back against the US pressure. The Belgian government has issued a statement condemning the US executive order. The statement calls the order a step backward in the fight for equality. Belgium has also said that it will support its companies. It has pledged to provide legal assistance to any Belgian company that faces penalties from the US government for refusing to comply with the executive order. Belgium's stance, like France's, highlights the EU's determination to stand up to the US on this issue. The EU sees this as a matter of principle. It is unwilling to allow the US to dictate its values. Section 6. A transatlantic clash of values. The dispute over DEI programs is the latest example of a growing trend. The US and EU are increasingly at odds over a range of social and political issues. This includes issues like LGBTQ+ rights, data privacy, and climate change. This clash of values is straining the transatlantic relationship. It is creating uncertainty for businesses and citizens on both sides of the Atlantic. It is also making it more difficult for the US and EU to cooperate on global challenges. The root of this clash lies in the diverging political landscapes of the US and EU. The US has become increasingly polarized in recent years. The EU, while facing its own challenges, has maintained a stronger commitment to multilateralism and social democracy. Section 7. The stakes are high economic and political fallout. The stakes in this dispute are high. The outcome could have significant economic and political implications for both the US and EU. Economically, a trade war over DEI programs could disrupt global supply chains and harm businesses on both sides of the Atlantic. Politically, this dispute could further damage the already strained transatlantic relationship. It could make it more difficult for the US and EU to cooperate on issues of mutual interest, such as security and defense. The dispute also has implications for the global order. The US and EU have long been the leading proponents of a rules-based international system. However, their current disagreement over DEI programs undermines this system and sets a dangerous precedent. Section 8. The future of US-EU relations. Navigating the divide. The dispute over DEI programs presents a significant challenge for the future of US-EU relations. It is unclear how this dispute will be resolved. Both sides seem determined to stand their ground. One possibility is that the dispute will escalate into a full-blown trade war. This would have significant economic and political costs for both sides. Another possibility is that the two sides will find a way to compromise. This would require both sides to make concessions. A third possibility is that the dispute will continue to simmer without a clear resolution. This would create uncertainty and instability in the transatlantic relationship. It would also make it more difficult for the US and EU to cooperate on other issues. Section 9. Finding common ground, a path forward. Despite the challenges, it is essential for the US and EU to find a way to bridge their differences on DEI programs and other issues. These differences, while significant, are not insurmountable. Both sides have a rich history of collaboration and mutual respect that can serve as a foundation for future efforts. The transatlantic relationship is too important to be allowed to deteriorate further. It has been a cornerstone of global stability and prosperity for decades. Allowing it to weaken would have far-reaching consequences not just for the US and EU, but for the entire world. One way to do this is to focus on areas of common ground. By identifying and prioritizing shared goals, both sides can work together more effectively. This approach can help to build trust and create a more positive atmosphere for addressing more contentious issues. The US and EU share many values and interests. These commonalities can serve as a strong foundation for collaboration. For example, both are committed to promoting economic growth, innovation, and social progress. These include a commitment to democracy, human rights, and the rule of law. These principles are at the heart of both societies and provide a strong basis for cooperation and a rules-based international order. This shared commitment to a fair and just global system is another important area of common ground. By focusing on these shared values, the US and EU can begin to rebuild trust and cooperation. This process will take time and effort, but it is essential for the future of the transatlantic relationship. Another important step is to improve communication and understanding. Misunderstandings and miscommunications have often been at the root of conflicts and tensions. By fostering open and honest dialogue, both sides can gain a better understanding of each other's perspectives and concerns. The US and EU need to engage in a more constructive dialogue about their differences. This means not only talking but also listening. It means being willing to compromise and find solutions that are acceptable to both sides. This dialogue should be based on mutual respect and a willingness to listen to each other's perspectives. It should be guided by a spirit of cooperation and a shared commitment to finding common ground. Finally, the US and EU need to find ways to work together on issues of mutual interest. This includes not only addressing current challenges, but also anticipating and preparing for future ones. This includes issues such as climate change, cybersecurity, and global health. These are areas where both sides have a lot to offer and a lot to gain from working together. By working together on these challenges, the US and EU can demonstrate the value of their partnership and begin to repair the damage that has been done. This will not only benefit both sides but also contribute to a more stable and prosperous world.